In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to learn. Most people, you'd be surprised, actually don't know how to learn. It's really shocking, and I made this discovery earlier this year, and it's helped me with my self-improvement journey massively. If I sound a little bit different, that's because I've got a cold, so not very fun, but it's fine. Alright, so the first thing I want to cover is why I say that most people don't know how to learn. And that's really because, I've got a notebook here by the way. Yeah. Most people don't know how to learn because of the way that schools teach you how to learn. There's a few ways that they teach people that I've come across. The first one was how I was taught, which was that you get given, let's say for math, they'll teach you 1 plus 1, and they'll tell you it today. You'll learn it, you won't be very interested because, you're young and, your mind's just all over the place. So you're not very interested, you just forget about it. And the next day they teach you it again, they teach you over and over and over and over and over and over and over, and they do it for ages, for the whole year, teaching you about basics of math. And they don't try and progress fast, they try and keep it all slow, but they do it repetitively until you remember. Their focus isn't on getting you to understand how to do it, it's to get you to do it and then remember it. Do it and then remember it. And the most common example of this is English, because lots of words don't make any sense, at least the way that teachers have explained it to me and other people. Like, I think have, the E on the end, I was taught, would make the A in the middle a uppercase, which would make it go have, but it's not. You add B-E before that, and it's behave. So, no one explained why that happens. If you know why that happens, comment down below. That'd actually be really helpful. But they just really got you to memorize. At least what I was taught was to memorize the words. And even with the school system in general, they teach 12 years to teach you math. The first, I'd say it's first year, then you'd have grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, 5, I'd say grade 4, grade 1 to 5 is mostly teaching you the basics of math. I'd say 6, 7, 8, and 9 would teach you more medium to advanced math, and 10, 11, 12 teach you the really advanced math, and beyond that you learn college level stuff. I went and got really invested into college level math, and I taught myself within 2 months. 2 months. There's literally just was 2 months. It was insane. So I taught myself college level math within 2 months, and I had this epiphany going, why does it take 12 years to teach someone basics of math to the end of math? If you're going to learn boxing or something, and you dedicate the time, it doesn't take that long, because the reason I had this epiphany was because a few years back, I actually taught myself from beginning to end, from beginner, not knowing anything about it, up to being able to program AI with Python coding. And with Python coding, it took 2 months to go from a beginner to programming artificial intelligence. 2 months. I dedicated probably 5 hours a day, non-stop learning for 2 months, constantly, and I taught myself within 2 months, professional level Python. And that was pretty insane. Now, of course, Python's an easier coding language, but I wasn't mindful, I wasn't present, I didn't really care about it. All I wanted was to learn this so that I can get into ethical hacking, which is something I do enjoy doing. And because of this, I realized if I was more focused, if I was more present, if I was more mindful, and I'd been on my self-improvement journey for a while, then I probably could have learned it within 1 month. And then I went, well, what's stopping me from learning, how to play soccer within 2 months? What's stopping me from becoming a professional at boxing within 2 months? What's stopping me from doing all of these other things in a shorter time period? And I realized that the way that I was learning when I was learning the Python stuff is completely different to how people want you to learn in school. It's really shocking, and I'll explain why. So before I explain, you want to understand what learning is. Because I'm going to ask you this question right now and answer honestly. Who has ever taught you how to learn? Was there ever a class that said, this is how you learn? Never. People just expected you to know how to learn right off the bat. The problem is, learning is a skill. just like everything else in life. It's a skill. And because it's a skill, it can actually be at level 0 or it can be at level 2000 or whatever level you want it to be. The more you train this skill, the better you get at learning, the faster you learn, the more you learn, and the easier it becomes to learn. You need to increase that skill. And because it's a skill, people expect you don't train your learning skill, meaning it's just, at a low level. And every time you learn something new, maybe it goes up a little bit, and a little bit, and a little bit, and a little bit more. You implement some techniques you find on YouTube, how to remember stuff, it jumps higher. But you haven't actually focused on increasing this skill. So if I wanted to become a professional at anything, let me think of something random off the top of my head. Dart throwing. Professional at dart throwing. Boom. 2 months. Easy. Professional. And I've kind of got it down to a good level now. I'd say that my learning skill is not perfect, but it is getting better than most people. Because I've taught myself to be a professional at Python in 2 months. I've taught myself to be a professional at bowling within about a month. I was doing bowling, found it a little bit fun, decided to swap to two-hand, and then just spent an entire day learning everything about it. And next time we went back, after a little bit of practice, boom, getting a lot better. Within a 1 month period, my skill went from 0 to 50. It's ridiculous how easy it is to learn and how quick it takes to learn. It doesn't take 12 years to learn all of that math. It doesn't take that long. It's because most students don't have the prerequisites that you need to be good at learning. Because if you could probably relate to this. If you're in a classroom like I was in a classroom sitting down and the teacher would be like, I'm going to teach you math today. And they'd try and teach me some math stuff. And I'd be thinking about going home and playing on my 3DS or DS or Wii U, because that's what we had back in those days. So I would focus on doing that instead of actually learning math. And because I was doing that, I didn't learn it that fast. So they have stretched out the school years because the students take that long to learn. Because 1, they're not mindful, 2, they're not present, and 3, they're not focused, and they don't really care about it. They're too focused on all these other instant gratification things because this is what's shoved down your neck when you're a child. It's ridiculous. So, teachers, what they should be doing is, before they even focus on teaching you stuff, or even if they're going to teach you, incorporate this before learning. Focus on meditation, mindfulness, presence, and focus. Because if they can just increase those 3 things, they'll see massive improvement with how fast the students learn. And even an example, when I was at school, there was one subject in particular that I really enjoyed, and that was reading, learning words, new words. And I found like a competition. I wanted to beat everyone else in the classroom. I outcompeted every single other person at that because that's all I wanted to learn. My focus was there. I was present and I was mindful while doing it because I enjoyed it. The thing is, most people, when they don't enjoy something, they're not focused, present, or mindful. And because of that, they don't learn it very fast. But when you enjoy something, you're completely invested into it, which is why it's easier to learn. Because so many people are like, oh, if you enjoy doing it, focus on that because it's easy. If you enjoy doing it, pursue that. And I think the reason that they might say that, just like a possibility, is because it's easier to learn things that you enjoy doing. It's easier to get better at them, which is why they say, hey, go do something you enjoy. It's really good. And the things you don't enjoy, get rid of them. Because I don't know what I'm on about. I've gone on to a little bit of rant here, but I'll continue on what I was saying. So, learning explained. The prerequisites for learning, if you're wondering, skip that. Prerequisites for learning are to have mindfulness, focus, and presence. Basically, the first things you learn on your self-improvement journey. So if you've been on your self-improvement journey for a while, which most people who watch this have, then you're going to have a massive advantage in every realm. Oh shoot, I'm quoting Andrew Tate. I'll say it. In every realm of human endeavour. Anyway. So learning explained. The first step for learning is to consume whatever content that you're trying to learn. So if I'm trying to learn Python, I will consume content related to Python. Meaning I'll be focused on getting the information. It's like the teacher telling you in a classroom, how to do math. 1 plus 1 equals 2. 2 plus 2 equals 4, etc. So you must consume the content that you need to learn it. So consume the educational content that teaches you stuff. The second part of learning is to analyze. So after you get that content, 1 plus 1 equals 2, you analyze. How does that work? Well, 1 plus 1 equals 2, so I'm guessing that's how it works. You analyze and you try and interpret, how does this work? And this step kind of goes hand in hand with the third step, which is understand. Analyzing helps you to understand why it works, because you need to consume, then you need to understand why, and then you need to remember. That's the fourth step, remember. Memorization is completely focused on when it comes to schools because they can't get the kids to analyze and understand it. When you understand something, it's a lot easier to learn it. I understood lots about Python. I understood it and then I memorized it. And by doing this, I excelled faster than 99.9% of people or something. I think that I searched up how long is the average time to become a professional at Python. It was like 2 years. I was like, well, I definitely might have overdone it there. But I was dedicated like 10 hours a day, so... Well, on some days, 10, 5 the others. This video is really unedited, by the way, so I'm not very good at doing these unedited ones, but I'll continue. So the first step, consume, analyze, which means to understand, trying to make sense of it. After you've analyzed, the third step is to understand. So once you understand what that content was telling you and why that content works in the way that it works. And the fourth step is to remember this. And there's a few tips for remembering, which I'll cover later, but so few things to keep in mind. No, I'll cover these now. So you have to consume, analyze, understand, and remember. These are the 4 steps to learning. Things to help you remember, which is the one that most people struggle with, apart from these two, because people actually skip the 2 in between, the step 2 and step 3. They skip analyze and understand. They go, okay, have is have, I remember. Instead of going, why is have? Why is 1 plus 1, 2? Why is 2 plus 2, 4? Why is 10 times 10, 100? Questioning these things helps you to understand. This is a part of analysing. This is a part of the second step. So, tips for remembering, some tricks for it. The first thing is you learn a lot about that one subject. So if I learn a ton of information on Python, I'm more likely to remember that information on Python. And I found this with the example for Python, where I learned a ton all day. I wasn't focused on, redoing the subject over and over and over. I was more focused on learning a big range for that one subject, and that helped me to remember. The second tip for learning and remembering is to learn so you can do that where you can learn a lot about one subject, or you can learn a little bit and you can repeat it daily or monthly or weekly, but you repeat the same thing over and over and over, like a repetitive, like school, where they repeat the same thing over and over and over and over and over until you remember. This is a very common tactic. I don't really like that one. I think only do that if you really struggle with a certain area, struggle with remembering it. But this next tip will help you massively. And that is to write down what you've learned. Writing down what you learned is very important. And that's actually what helped me to remember most of the Python stuff. It helped me to learn it massively. I got a little book out and I wrote down in the book a ton of information. Everything I learned, I wrote it down so that if I did forget, I could open up the book and I could relearn it all. It didn't matter if it was messy, it didn't matter if one subject didn't correlate with the other subject. As long as I wrote it down, it actually helped me to remember. And this is a tip that actors actually use when trying to memorize their scripts, is they will write down on a piece of paper what they have to say. They'll write it down again and again, and then sometimes they'll shorten it, so they'll have the first letter for every single word. So if it's like, how are you? They'll go H-A-Y. And then after that, it'll be like H, and then, they just keep shortening it further. But you don't have to do that. Just write down in a very simple way what you've learned, so that Worst case scenario, you can come back to the book and you can learn it again. So that is a big tip when it comes to learning. Massive tip. But let me share with you a good example of people who learn and people who don't learn. So, the people who do learn, the people who don't learn, these people are like 99.9% of the population, and that's because they don't focus on what they're learning, they don't be mindful with what they're learning, and they're not present when they're learning it. You can watch a video teaching you how to make $1 million, but if you're not invested and not focused in what they're telling you, you're going to consume the information and go, whatever, and then go back to playing your video games. Don't do that. If you're really invested in what you're doing, you're really focused, mindful, and present, you'll learn it. And I found this with every single thing in life. So if I want to go learn tomorrow how to, if I want to learn how to do boxing, and what I'll do to learn boxing is I'd consume a ton of content, I'd go out and I'd watch a ton of videos on boxing, I would write down everything that I've learnt from the boxing thing, so I'd write down all the information, I would look at all the information, I'd try and make sense of why they do it this way, why do you put your guard up here, why do you have your arms tucked, why do you twist your foot this way, why does this work, why does that work, trying to analyse. After I analyse and I understand what's happened and why they do it that way, then all I have to do is remember, and what I would do is I would learn a ton of content, I would practice regularly, and I would write down on a piece of paper why all of this happened and how to do it, or draw little examples of it. Or maybe record a video so you can watch yourself doing it again and explain in the video why you're doing it this way. And this will help you to learn things in a lot better way. So, a thing that I should have covered earlier in this video, why do you need to learn and why do you need to level up your learning skill? And the biggest reason I could see to leveling up your learning skill is because if there's any sort of thing that you're interested in doing, whether that's business, self-improvement, mindfulness, meditation, anything, you want to learn a lot about it and you want to get better, then you need to be able to learn. And if you can level up your learning ability, it drastically reduces the time it takes to learn that subject. Kids in school will take 12 years to learn math, English, science, and all the other stuff. But for me, if I was to dedicate an entire week non-stop to math, I would do their 12 years of math within a week. And I'm not joking, I would do it. I would dedicate 5 to 10 hours per day non-stop on math. Boom. I did this recently with chess. I was pretty interested in doing chess. I've stopped for a while now, but I was interested. And I dedicated every single day at least 2 to 5 hours non-stop every single day. Fully focused, close my door, sit in my room and just play chess and learn more stuff about chess and practice and analyse and practice and analyse. And I do this every single day, and I went from a beginner to a really good player. And I stopped because I wasn't too interested in pursuing it further into professional level, but it definitely helped me to learn it a lot better than other people would. So, the thing I've worked out with time frames, better time frames, the newest time frames, if you think that it takes, this is what most people think it takes to learn something. They go, how long does it take to be from beginner to intermediate? How long does that take? And they'll go, 2 months, possibly up to 6 months. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's a bit weird. 2 months to 6 months for beginner to intermediate. Well, how long does it take to be a beginner? To go from knowing nothing to, knowing the basics. It takes 2 weeks. Okay, how long does it take to become a professional? It takes about 2 years, up to 5 years. Sometimes for your martial arts and stuff, it takes about 10 years. And I'm like, no, it doesn't take that long. I've learnt so many things in such a short period that it's really insane. It does not take that long. If you want to know the real time frames, here they are. To go from knowing nothing to a beginner, it takes 1 to 2 days. If you're really focused and dedicated to it, 1 to 2 days you'll learn it. If I want to become I had dart throwing at the back, and we got some darts, just throwing some darts, practice with them, got it as a gift, and I thought, let me go, let me get a little bit better at this, so I actually have some sort of skill level, so I can play this and maybe have some fun with it, maybe pursue it a little bit further. But I'm interested. I've got nothing better to do. So I went and watched a few videos. I learned, I understood, I wrote down what I learned. No, I think I skipped that step. Big mistake on my behalf because I forgot most of it now. But I did. I actually got really good at throwing darts, at dart throwing, within one day. A few hours is all it took. About 2 hours, 3 hours. And to become from like beginner to intermediate, it only takes, I would say, 5 days to 7 days, like max. 5 days, 7 days max. I mean, if you're really lazy and you're slacking off, 2 weeks, but it doesn't take any longer than that. It doesn't take 2 months to become an intermediate. That's insane. I think if it comes to like martial arts or boxing or something like that, it might be a little bit different depending on if you are limited to when you can learn the information. For example, if you're going to a martial arts gym where you practice and train against people, then of course, if you can only go once a week, you're only consuming content once a week. But if you're constantly learning from online and from all of these other sources, considering the internet gives us endless possibilities nowadays, then you're able to learn so much faster. You go online, watch a ton of YouTube videos that are all long form, you watch other people's fights, you analyze, you write it all down, and then you experiment with it, and it only takes about a week to become an intermediate. And to become a professional, it takes anywhere from 2 months to a year. That's it. 2 months to a year to become a professional. For stuff like boxing and martial arts, I'd say 2 months. 2 months of really, like every single day, dedicated to this one thing. And another big tip if you want to learn really well and really fast is to not focus on many tasks all at once. Don't try and focus on soccer, boxing, English, maths, language, this, and put all of your focus into all of them because it destroys your focus and you're not going to be able to work on that one task. If you pick one thing and you work on it every single day for like 2 hours, 3 hours every single day, fully focused in like a deep work flow state, then you'll learn that within 2 months. 2 months professional. 2 months professional, 1 week intermediate, and 1 day beginner. So it's really, really, really quick. And I don't know why schools haven't really looked into this and tried to drop down the time that it takes to teach these kids stuff. Because if you were going by this method, then you could lower it. Let's say you can get the age down to like 14, and these kids are professionals. They're basically finished schooling. Then from 14 to 18, you could help them work on a business, and you could help them work on life skills and on exercise and boxing and fitness and all of these other things that are really important in the real world, instead of just teaching them the basics and then going, oh, you're 18 now, go and find a job. They could actually get them prepared. If you were 14 years old and your teacher was telling you how to make a multi-million-dollar business, how to defend yourself in a real-life situation where you're in danger, and how to become the best version of yourself, you have 4 years to be prepared for the real world. 4 years to be prepared so you don't have to get chucked into the system of jobs. But they won't do that. They won't focus on that. In fact, mental health is skipped in like 90% of stuff that we learn today. How many people have gone up to you and gone, is your mental health okay? Not like in a sarcastic way where, someone's feeling bad. They go, hey, have you been working on improving your mental health? You become more disciplined? How many people walk up to you and go, oh, have you been learning about how to start a business, a multi-million-dollar business, so that you don't spend 40 years of your life wasted away sitting in a Lamborghini in a wheelchair at, 60 years old? No one. So many people just don't learn this stuff now. And, I've been interested in all of this stuff for ages, and I stumbled upon self-improvement, and it changed my life. I think everyone should start their self-improvement journey. It's really useful, but getting off track. Learning is a really good skill to have, and if you improve it a lot, your time can even get lower than what mine is. Some people become a professional at stuff within a day, master level. And I got a little bit overkill there, and I went to go make a bigger graph, bigger chart. So 1 day, 1 to 2 days, beginner, 5 to 7 days, intermediate, 2 months to a year, professional, 5 years, master, and 10 years, world's best. I think that's definitely achievable. People can become world's best within 10 years. Definitely. But I mean, I have never got to that level, so I can't say that that's true. That's just an estimate. But the first three are true. They've been proven by me in multiple cases where I've done this, become professional at something within 2 months. Sometimes even shorter. So what I think you should get out of this video is, because I've got 5 minutes left before I have to wrap up, I would say to get out of this video, what you need to get out of this video is learn, and the process for learning, which is 1, consume, 2, analyze and interpret and try and work out why something works the way it works. You want to know the ins and outs of how this operates and why it operates in that way, because that will help you for the third step, which is to understand. Once you understand, and only once you understand, can you then memorize. If you do not understand it, you should still be focused on understanding it. If you do not understand why this works in this way, then you can't focus on remembering it, because if you remember something that you don't understand, what use is it to you anyway? What use is it to you if you memorize that, hey, I memorized 1 plus 1 equals 2, but I don't know why it equals 2? Because the reason why you learn 1 plus 1 equals 2 is so you can learn 2 plus 2 equals 4, and you can learn more and more and more. To get better at a skill, you must understand the basics. If you don't understand the basics, what's the point of memorizing them? You can't just memorize the basics and go, okay, 1 plus 1 is 2, cool. Now I'm going to try and learn and try and understand why 2 plus 2 is 4. You have no idea. It's a lot harder unless you understand the first step. When you're learning something, understand every step of the way, because it will help you to learn that skill massively. Tips for memorizing. Learn a lot about one subject. Just focus all on that one subject. That's all you're focused on, and learn a ton of information about it, because this will help you to remember a good portion of what you just learned. If you consume 200 videos on kickboxing, you're most likely going to remember 20 of them, at least. And that's a good amount to start with. You're at least going to remember the basics, which means you can come back the next day and learn another 200 videos or another 100 videos. So focus all on one subject. The subjects that you struggle with remembering, practice doing them over and over and over every single day so that you memorize. So it's repetitive, because repetitiveness actually does help you to remember. And the most important one, the third one, is to write down why. So you write down what it is, the consume part. You write down why it works, the analyze part, and the understand part. And you write down how you can remember it. So the 4 steps that you just learnt with, like, consume, analyze, understand, and remember, you would write them down on a piece of paper. So for 1 plus 1, it'd be math basics. That would be the first step, and you'd write that down, which would be consume, because it's just like the title. The second step, you want to write that part down as well, which would be 1 plus 1 equals 2. That's the second step. You write down the formula. You write down the part that you analysed. The thing that you were trying to work out why, you write that down. The understand bit, you write in text why it works. 1 plus 1 equals 2 because you are adding 1 to 1, and 1 to 1 equals 2. So, and then after that you can write down something very simple at the very end, where it'd be like, adding one number and another number equals whatever the total of these two numbers is. So you would write down as much information on that topic, really. It doesn't matter which way you do it, but I would say do it that way, which is to basically take all the steps that you use to learn something and write them all down on a piece of paper. And that's really the last thing that I would say you should focus on, apart from... No, it's not the last thing to focus on. So, after you've memorized and you've learnt it, increase your focusing skills, so you're focused on that subject. So, block off all distractions. Turn your phone off, chuck it away, open up whatever you're doing. Just throw all distractions away. No TV, no phone, no junk food, nothing. You don't want to be eating. You can drink in between. I think that even drinking might be a bit of a distraction, but it's fine. So no eating, no instant gratification. Block off as many sounds as possible. Sit in a room, dedicate like 1 to 2 hours, and just focus fully on that one thing that you're trying to learn. Write it down and repeat this process. And you'll learn it a lot faster than everyone else. So, this was a mess of a video, I would say. This is a big rant for most of it. But I hope you enjoyed. This video was just a big rant about how to learn. Because most people today don't actually know how to learn. Learning is a skill. Train this skill and you'll beat everyone else at everything. Because realistically, we want to be better than everyone else at fitness. We want to be better than everyone else at mental health and mindfulness. We want to be better than everyone else at a ton of subjects. But what helps us to get to those subjects? Well, learning. You have to learn the subject in order to be able to be better than everyone else at it. So if you become better at learning, you immediately become better at every subject because you can learn them faster and you can understand them better. So learning makes you better at every realm of human endeavour. Learning makes you do that. Planning helps as well. Improvisation helps as well. A creative mind helps as well. But learning is a massive one that you should work on. So, very, very, very quick run over and then I'm going to end the video. 1. Consume. 2. Analyse. 3. Understand. And 4. Remember. Tips for remembering. Learn a lot about one subject. Learn a little bit, but redo it daily, so repetitive work. 3. Write down what you learn, because this helps you to remember. Learning is a skill, and that requires you to be good at focusing, being present, and being mindful, which if you're on self-improvement, you already have. Most people don't learn this. Schools don't teach you this. And the time frames for what you can learn takes 1 to 2 days to become a beginner, 5 to 7 days to become an intermediate at it, and a professional, it only takes 2 months to a year. Hope this video helped someone. It was a big rant, and if you enjoyed it, please subscribe. I'll leave a link to my Discord server down below, as well as text kind of explaining the process, so you can just copy that and you can write it down somewhere. So, get to work learning things and get to work learning. You need to learn how to learn in order to learn. That's a quote. Someone make that a quote. Peace out.